the Lord is truth and the Lord is all things good. And anything that is not of that picture of the Lord is not good. And some of the things that we find in this book are like, well, you're going to be steered into this and steered into that, and the Lord's going to let you be tested and all of these things. So we need to be assured of what is true. Hey everyone, welcome back to Bible 365. I'm your host, Kathy Carter, and I'm bringing you the Bible in 365 days. If you can hear, I'm sick, and so it's crazy because this is the actual first time I've really been genuinely sick this year, and so it's interesting that it's happening during the most confusing book that I've been in so far. So I don't know, maybe Isaiah was really confusing too, Ezekiel. Anyway, I'm bringing the Bible in 365 days. I'm using the 1-year chronological Bible reading plan that is available at oneyearbibleonline.com. And you can get this one of 3 ways. You can click on a link, a chronological link, and that will take you right to Bible Gateway. You can download a free reading plan, or you can purchase one of their Bibles. Today, guys, is day, every day I've been saying for the past couple of days, we're coming to the end. It's day 363. So this is like the last of 4 days that we have in this year. It is December 28th, and our reading is Revelation 7 through 10. And so usually what I say to you guys is if you've never been here before, I have a history at the end, but I haven't been doing that through the book of Revelation. And it's because I want to do a quick history all the way up until this, and then kind of discuss what I think the revelation may or may not be. I want to be completely honest with you guys that I leave this so open because there are so many things that it could be that I don't want to come to any false conclusions. When I think we go, it's clear that it is this. I think that's when we find, especially with apocalyptic literature, which like things that have not happened yet, I think we get ourselves into trouble with our minds going, this is exactly what it looks like, and therefore these are the signs that I'm looking for. And then once I see these signs, what if it doesn't happen? Then what does that do to my faith? Or what does that do to people who have trusted me? Like these kind of things. And I want to tell you that, like, I don't think it is clear. I don't think that we can go, well, COVID was clearly the end of times, and now we're just in those last few minutes. I mean, I would go back and I would say that if someone was reading this during the time of World War II, they would have said, or World War I, they would have said this is clearly the end of times. Or somebody living in the midst of a plague in their area, they would say clearly this is the end of times. And so I think we need to be careful with apocalyptic literature. And I think in our own hearts, we need to recognize that there is no easy answer. And if we think we found an easy answer, it's probably not the truth. So I am in the book of Revelation, if you haven't guessed that so far, although I did say what our reading is. Beware, there might be a lot of foggy moments today. And so if we go back to a quick history of where we've come before we go to where we're going, God made this world. And he created it, and he created the people in it, and he created everything in it. And the reason I note this in my new history is because I think it's really important to recognize he made not just what we can see and what we know here on this earth, but he made everything in the what we would consider the celestial world as well, the celestial realm. There are a lot of times in the Old Testament where people turn to other gods, and we may or may not recognize them as other gods. Like I feel like nowadays, a lot of times what we use as well, like we'll say idols, which is kind of an easier word for gods because it's things that turn us away from the Lord. And when we use the term idol, we sort of mean things like our phones, which may be true now, but back when these things were first written, they literally meant they were worshiping other gods. They were worshiping the God of war, the God of love, the God of, I don't know, I want to say the God of hope, but that's probably not what it is. But there were, I know, obviously of some Greek and some Roman, but there were many, many other gods all through time. And they're talking about Baal was one that was used obviously over and over and over again. And so they went and they leaned on other gods. And so that leads you to wonder, are there other gods? And I'm going to say that maybe, and of course, we in the Christian realm would go big G versus little g, because the Lord is Lord over all of those things. And so what it seems like in reading this book, the revelation that has been given to John, that there are things above the earth, there are things on the earth, and there are things below the earth. And we're not necessarily sure because we only see what we see. And so we're not necessarily sure, are the gods some false gods that are really these under the earth beings that are leading people astray? Are they demons that are in the name of gods? And I'm opening all this up because I just want to tell you that I'm not too sure. But what I do know is the Lord is the Lord over all of those things. And the Lord sent his son, Jesus, on the earth to be the bridge for us to believe in Jesus, to follow the Lord, to be protected and saved from all of those things, because the Lord is the light, the Lord is truth, and the Lord is all things good. And anything that is not of that picture of the Lord is not good. And some of the things that we find in this book are like, well, you're going to be steered into this and steered into that, and the Lord's going to let you be tested and all of these things. So we need to be assured of what is true, so we know when something isn't true, right? Like I've heard this expression. I know I've mentioned this expression in my videos, that we need to know what an American dollar bill looks like. Like, you need to know exactly what an American dollar bill looks like in order to not be fooled with a forgery. You don't need to know what every forgery looks like. You can't possibly know what every forgery looks like, because once they've made one that's gotten caught, they're going to make another one, and they're going to try and make it better and better and better. But you need to know the original so well that you're not going to be fooled by any forgery. Not by forgery A, B, or C, but by any unknown forgery that comes to you. You're going to be able to note that that is the wrong one, because you know the original, front, back, sideways, inside out, all of those things. And so obviously that's why my appeal to understanding your Bible is really important, because I think that's where we come up with, we are not eyewitnesses anymore, right? The eyewitnesses have long died, and they've given us their word in order for us to understand their eyewitness accounts. So the book of Revelation is a revelation that was given to probably the apostle John. John is an eyewitness that walked with Jesus for the years that he was living on this earth. And then after he walked with Jesus, he spread the word, like, this was the Messiah that I was walking with. This is the Lord that we love. And so he is, like I'm saying to you, he is I keep saying he's the gap, he's the bridge, he's the line, he's the lifeline between us and the Lord. If you believe in him, you believe in the Lord. If you believe in the Lord, you believe that he was the one that was sent. So he is the one that everyone needs to turn to. And so John was spreading that all over the world, and he got persecuted because of it, and he got put in jail. And when he was sent to jail, he was sent to this island called Patmos. It's an island off of the coast of Greece, and it was a violent, criminal-infested island. Obviously, he was a criminal, and he was sent there. And so there he got this vision. And we've seen some kooky things so far, and we're going to keep seeing kooky things until the very end. And trying to make sense of these kooky things, I think, is part of our job, but it is really difficult. And, I'm going to give you what I can possibly give you. So today we're starting in the portion of Revelation that starts in chapter 7. So these seals have been broken. There were seals that were given. The Lamb was the one that was able to open these seals. And so these seals have been broken. And then we finished yesterday. It said, for the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it? People were running and they were hiding in caves because bad stuff was happening to the earth. And what I want to note is that because there's what you read, and then there's what you personally kind of gather from what you believe. And I think it can be open-ended. These things might be very literal, like very literally these things might come. These things might be an interpretation, like a celestial interpretation of what's going to happen on the earth. Like, this is the way it's happening up in the heavenly realms, and this is the way it's going to come through on the earth, right? That could be the case. I actually believe that's more of the way in which it's going to happen. Like, I don't believe that there's going to be an actual abyss that opens and these things are going to come up out of it, but I believe something's going to open, things are going to come up out of it, and we're not necessarily going to be very clear unless you read your Bible. We're not going to be very clear that it is the end that's coming, right? We're not going to necessarily have that full understanding. And I'm sure it can be looked at other ways as well. He always did, and I keep going off on tangents, but he always did, we saw all throughout, since the beginning of time, he always made these literal interpretations, very physical things in real life, and he would represent those things either in a bigger picture or again in the heavenly realms. So I think those are what we've read all the way up until this point should guide us into kind of understanding what this means a little bit. So he says, after this, after everyone was running and hiding and people were saying, who can withstand it? After this, he sees 4 angels at the 4 corners, and they're holding back all of these winds, right? And it looks like maybe they're waiting for time to come while they're holding back until they need to do the thing that they're going to do. He says, then he sees another angel coming up from the east, having the seal of the living God. He called out in a loud voice to the 4 angels, don't harm the land or the sea or the trees. So they're holding us back until we put a seal on the foreheads of the servants of our God. Then I heard the number of those who were sealed. It was 144,000 people that were sealed, 12,000 people from each tribe. And again, I'm going to go, is this a literal number, 12,000 from each tribe, or is this a figurative number? I'm venturing a guess that it's this is, again, I keep saying it, I know I'm a broken record. This is me, I'm venturing a guess. I actually don't think it's a literal number. I think it's a number that has meaning, but I don't necessarily think it means 12,000 from each tribe. But again, let's hold it open, right? I could definitely be wrong. I might in a year come back and be like, oh, no, it's definitely literal 12,000. After this I looked, so it was 12,000 from every tribe. After this I looked, and there before me was a great multitude from every nation and tribe. They were wearing white robes, and they were crying out in a loud voice about salvation that belongs to God. And they were all worshiping God. The angels, the heavens, everything was there. And it was all worshiping God, saying, amen, praise and glory, and wisdom and thanks and honor and power and strength be our God forever and ever. Then one of the elders asked me, so asked John, who are the people in white robes and where did they come from? And he said, and John's like, you know. So I think this is like a rhetorical, and we've seen this before. And he said, these are they who have come out of the great tribulation. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. So come out of the great tribulation. I don't know if that's the great tribulation that just happened with all those broken seals and all those things have come, or like if it's your life that has been the great tribulation, right? Like there is in essence like a part of our life that is a test and a trial and a tribulation. Just look at Job, which again, we go, look at my son Job, right? That God says, look at my son Job. His life was a tribulation. He had some great moments, and then he had some massively horrible moments. And so his life living on this earth was nowhere near perfect, even though he loved the Lord, even though he honored the Lord in all that he did, the way that he raised his children, the way that he was with his wife, the way that he was with his friends. It seems like he was very honoring the Lord, but his life was tribulation. And so could this be what that means? These are the ones who lived and loved and still honored God in all of the things. Or is it someone who just lived through that last little section? Again, we're not going to know until the end, but something to think about. Therefore, it says it made them wash with the blood of lamb. Therefore, God protects them, and the Lamb is going to lead them. So it says, never again will they hunger, never again will they thirst, because they survived this tribulation. Because the Lamb at the center of the throne is going to be their shepherd. He's going to lead them to springs of living water. So after they survive this tribulation, they're going to be led to the Lamb, and the Lamb is going to shepherd them towards living water, where they're not going to hunger and they're not going to thirst. He said, and then he opens the 7th seal. When he opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. And then I saw the 7 angels, and the 7 trumpets were given to them. Another angel, so now we got the 7, another angel carries this golden censer, which, if you don't remember from back in the times of Exodus, when Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, I kind of lump all those 3 together, when Moses was laying down all that was happening with the tribes, the censers, and this was something that lasted all through the time of Israel, probably even now. Those censers were like those gold balls that they would have by the altar that they would put incense in, and the incense would rise. So the aroma would rise up to the Lord. And so it was a very special part of the ceremony of being in the tabernacle. So another angel who had a golden censer came and stood at the altar. He had incense to offer. The smoke of the incense, together with the prayers of God's people, went up before God from the angel's hand. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire, and hurled it on the earth. Once he did that, there came peals of thunder, rumblings, flashings of light, and an earthquake. So are all we're going to feel is a massive earthquake? Maybe. Then the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared to sound them. The first angel sounded it. There came hail and fire mixed with blood. It was hurled down all the earth, and a third of the earth was burned up, the trees, the green grass. A second angel came and burned up the sea. A third turned it into blood. A third of the living creatures in the sea died. A third of the ships were destroyed. Third angel sounded his trumpet, and a great star came down and burned the rivers and springs of water. The waters turned bitter. So we get this third, right? Like, so we can see things that part of the earth is starting to get destroyed because of this. A fourth angel sounded. A third of the sun was struck, and the moon and the stars turned them dark. And he said, as I watched, I heard an eagle flying in midair, calling out, woe to the inhabitants of the earth. A fifth angel sounded. He saw a star fallen, and that was given the key to the shaft of the abyss. This is that abyss that I was talking about. So like an abyss is like this giant hole, right, that opens up. Like, I want to use the Mariana Trench as an example. Like, it's this open space that is, it leads to what we would consider nothing, right? Like, it's an open space with a never-ending bottom that we can't see. When he opened it, smoke rose from it like a gigantic furnace, and out of the smoke, locusts came like scorpions, and they were, again, this is all like, right? Because it's not literally looking like a locust, but then it has a scorpion's tail, and then it inflicts harm on people. So it's like all of a like, right? It says they weren't allowed to kill people, but only to torture people who didn't have that seal of God on their foreheads, that 144,000. So those who didn't have the mark were able to be tortured by these things for a while. And I think part of this, and we're going to see in a little bit, part of this is this tribulation and stuff that's coming, or that has come. Like, maybe this is some of what we're living on earth. Again, I'm putting that out there. I kind of think that's what it is. Part of this is for those who are going through the suffering. Like, so there was already some that turned to the Lord. For whatever reason, there were already some people that turned to the Lord. They already have the marks on their foreheads. And then he sends down these tribulations. Some people have been saved from that tribulation. Again, this is what it looks like, because it says, he says to the church in, I think, Philadelphia, you're going to be saved from my tribulation to come. Like, you're not even going to be bothered by it, because you turned and you were like doing all of the right stuff. So you're going to be saved from that tribulation because you've been victorious. And some people have already gone through the tribulation, and they're now following the shepherd. And then it seems like some on earth still haven't turned towards the Lord. And so this tribulation that's coming is once again doing this separating. So there's still an opportunity. I think there's still an opportunity for some people to turn to the Lord. And then some people are just going to, we're going to see later, some people are just going to dig in their heels and they're going to blame the Lord instead of turning towards the Lord. So God is still like outrageously patient with us. So he's like, even though you guys are looking at this and you're not turning towards me, I'm just going to give you another one and see what that does. Are you going to turn towards me, or are you going to turn away from me? So they are able to torture those people. And it said the locusts looked like horses prepared for battle. They had as king over them the angel of the abyss. And it says, whose name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek it's Apollyon. That is destroyer. So its name is destroyer. This is the king, and he's coming in, and he's given the ability by God to destroy all of these people, not to kill them, unfortunately, just to torture them. And this is the first woe was past, but now there's 2 more. The 6th angel sounds. He hears a voice. It's got 4 horns of the golden altar that is before God, right? And it says, release the 4 angels who were bound at the great river. So remember earlier, just in this chapter, these angels were like holding the stuff back. And it's like, okay, the 6th seal has been broken. Now all of that has been released, and all of that stuff is now released onto the earth. The horses and riders I saw in my vision look like this. Breastplates were fiery red, dark blue, and yellow as sulfur. And then a third of mankind was killed by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur that came out of their mouths. It said the power of the horses was in their mouths and their tails, because their tails were like snakes, having heads which inflict injury. So they're, may I go back again to, it's all like. It's sort of like this, but it's not like that. These are all creatures that if we see them, we would be shocked. Now, will we see them as they truly are, or will we see them looking like something we understand, and yet they're going to inflict a kind of damage that we don't understand? He said, the rest of mankind who were not killed by these plagues still did not repent of the work of their hands. Again, they're blaming God and they're not turning towards him. Then in Revelation 10, it says, then I saw another mighty angel coming down from heaven. He was robed in a cloud with a rainbow above his head, and he was holding a little scroll. Seal up what the seven thunders have said, he says, and don't write it down. So he's like, don't even write down what it is that I'm giving you. He hides it from him. Then the angel I had seen standing on the sea and on the land, which is this big angel, raised his right hand to heaven, and he swore by him who lives forever and ever, Jesus the Lord. There will be no more delay, but in the days when the seventh angel is about to sound his trumpet, the mystery of God will be accomplished. So when that seventh trumpet comes, the mystery of God will be accomplished. Then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me once more. He said, go take that scroll that lies open in the hands of an angel. And then he went to him and he asked him to take it. Then I was told, you must prophesy again about many peoples, nations, languages, and kings. So at this point, it seems like the end of maybe that section of prophecy. And that is also the end of our reading for today. So we're going to come into another reading tomorrow where it looks like maybe he's given another vision and another prophecy. If this has been a blessing to you and haven't overly confused and overly confusing situation, I want you to like, share, and subscribe. And then I will see you guys tomorrow when we start with Revelation 11.